Hey everybody, it's Pastor John with your midweek moment for this week. You may have noticed that there was no e-spire on Saturday, and there's a reason for that. The reason wasn't that I was sick. That was actually the reason why there was no e-spire the Saturday before that, because I got a call from my doctor on Monday morning, and he said to me, "Congratulations, son, you do have Lyme disease." So that's why I wasn't here a couple of weeks ago. But no, the reason there was no e-spire this past Saturday was because this past Saturday was the day that the cat went to her forever home. Now, for those of you who have not been following the epic story of me and the cat, let me just take a second to fill you in. The cat's name is Buttercup. For many years, she was my father's cat. But my father has reached the age where he needs to move closer to one of the kids. And so he moved out to Western Pennsylvania to be closer to my brother. However, the place where he's living now does not allow pets, so he had to give up Buttercup the cat. And rather than taking Buttercup the cat to a shelter, which I don't think Dad had the heart to do, he managed somehow to talk my niece Grace into taking on Buttercup the cat. The problem with that was that Grace was away this summer. She was in an academic program in Wisconsin. So the cat needed a temporary home. She needed a place to live after she had to leave Dad's house and before she could go to Grace's house. And so I was the person who got the job of being the temporary home. And as many of you know, that has been sort of an epic journey. But the time came this past Saturday when it was time for the cat to leave, to make the long trip from Connecticut to New York City to spend the rest of her life, hopefully, with Grace and her girlfriend, Audrey. Although I have to say that the way the cat left was a little strange. Not surprising, I suppose, considering the totality of my relationship with the cat, Buttercup. What happened was, since Grace and Audrey live in the city, they don't have a car. So it was actually my sister and my brother-in-law, Pat, who came up to get the cat. And one of the things that you need to know about Buttercup is that Buttercup doesn't like animal carriers. I know this because on a couple of occasions I tried to stuff her into an animal carrier, and from one of those adventures, the scratches are still healing. And I could understand that at first, because when Buttercup first came to me, she was in a little tiny animal. I think it was the smallest size. I think it was about the right size for a hamster, but not really for a cat. So the first time I tried to get Buttercup into a cat carrier, I got her into the next size up cat carrier, which did not work. And then the second time I tried to get her into an animal carrier, tried to get her into one the size bigger than that, which is actually sized for a small dog, but that didn't work either. And since Jane and Pat were aware of this, they consulted with their vet about the best way to get Buttercup rounded up. And the vet said, "Do you have a heart trap?" And since Jane and Pat live in Western New Jersey, they do have a heart trap. And he said, "Well, here's what you do. You get the heart trap and you set it up in the middle of the living room and you put a can of wet cat food in it as bait, and then you just catch the cat the way you'd catch a raccoon or anything else." So that's what Jane and Pat decided to do. So last Friday, they sent me a text saying they were going to be up on Saturday afternoon, and they explained to me about the heart trap. And then they said that the vet said it would be better if I wasn't there, which I thought was a little strange. But, they were taking the cat off my hands, so I wasn't going to make trouble. So I said, "Great, text me, give me some idea of what your schedule is, and I'll round up all the cat stuff so it's all ready to go." And they said that Jane said that they were planning to leave their house about 11 or 11:30, which I figured probably went more like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, which was what it did, which was fine. And finally, I got the news from them that they were on their way and that they expected to be to my place somewhere between 3:30 and 3:45. So I rounded up all of the cat stuff, which turned out to be an enormous pile of things. There were two brand new animal carriers, and there was her dishes and there was her litter box, which I washed out. I got to tell you something: if you've never washed out a cat litter box, don't. So there was the litter box, and there were toys and beds and all of that sort of stuff. And there was a brand new bag of cat food and a brand new box of cat litter because I wanted to start the cat off right. Oh, and then I had a gift for Grace and Audrey. I got them a Swiffer Heavy Duty Pet mop, and I can tell you they're going to appreciate that. So anyway, so I get the cat's stuff all together in this enormous pile, and then I leave, left the back door unlocked. And Jane and Pat get there, whenever they do, I guess, like 3:45, something like that. And it apparently took them a couple of hours, or an hour and a half or something like that, to get the cat caught. Because I did not get the all clear that it was okay for me to come back until about 5:30. And by that time that happened, I was all the way down in New Haven. So I was doing some shopping, so I finished my shopping and I came home. And the point of it is I didn't get home Saturday night, excuse me, until about 7. And by that time it was too late to do the e-spire. But the important point is that Buttercup the cat is gone. But I can tell you this, she is not forgotten. One of the reasons that she is not forgotten is because I am still cleaning up her fur. I Swiffered the entire house last Saturday before Jane and Pat showed up. And all week long, now that Buttercup is gone, her orange fur appears to just continually, mysteriously appear from places. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming from somewhere, and I suspect it'll keep coming for a while. I have not even looked under my bed yet. My bed turned out to be Buttercup's happy place, and I'm scared of what I'm going to find underneath there. But at some point I'm going to have to look, and I'm going to have to look under the sofas too, because that was the place she hid when she was downstairs. But like I said, the point is that Buttercup is gone, but certainly not forgotten. And there's a lesson, I think, that I can draw from my experiences with Buttercup. Because as most of you know, I was not keen on having a cat for the summer. But I did it anyway. And I did it anyway because, as I mentioned, I think earlier in my epic adventure with Buttercup, there are things that you do for family that you wouldn't do for other people. And sometimes you do things knowing in advance that you're not going to enjoy doing them, but you do them anyway because you know that it's the right thing to do, and you're doing it because you know you're doing a good turn for somebody else. And as I was thinking about that, as I was getting ready for the midweek moment, it occurred to me that that's a pretty good definition of agape. We talk about agape from time to time in church. It's one of those Greek words for love, but it was one of those words that the Greeks reserved for a very special kind of love, for what you might call giving love or sacrificial love. It was the sort of love that is not based on how you feel, but rather was based on what you did. Agape love is the sort of love you show when you do what's best for another person, even if it's not necessarily what's best for you, or when you do something for another person without really expecting to ever get anything back for it. And both of those things were true in my adventures with Buttercup. Going into the experience, I did not think that I was going to enjoy having Buttercup around, and by golly, I didn't. But I did it anyway, because it was the right thing to do. And now that Buttercup is gone, I know that I will, never be reimbursed for the $300 or so that I spent on stuff for Buttercup over the summer. But it turns out that that's okay, because that's the way it is with agape love. When you have that love, or when you show that love for others that's based on what you do for them rather than what they do for you, you're willing to do things like that. You're willing to take on jobs that you know you're not going to like very much, or you're willing to do something without getting anything back. And if you know anything about agape love, you know it's significant, because every time you read the New Testament and you see a word translated as love, the Greek word that they're translating is agape. That's the only kind of love that is referred to in the New Testament, this sort of giving, sacrificial sort of love. This love that seeks to do what is best for others, even if it's not what's best for you. And my experience with Buttercup showed me that it's possible to show agape love in small but still significant ways. You don't necessarily have to do anything dramatic. You don't necessarily have to expose yourself, to physical risk or financial disaster or something like that. You can show agape love for others just by taking on a job as simple as taking care of a cat. The important thing, I suppose, with agape love isn't how you show it, but it's the fact that you show it. The fact that we as Christians try to love others with the same love with which Jesus loved us. The love that leads us occasionally to do things for other people, even if we know in advance that we're not going to enjoy it, and even if we don't expect to get anything back. Thanks.